Anglers of the Internet, welcome back to another Advanced Kayak Angler podcast brought to you by Fishing Online, fastest shipping on the Internet. I'm your host, Kurt Smits. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Now let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. It's another week, it's another podcast. This week we're going to talk about something that's not directly fishing related, but I think it has a lot to do with our sport of kayak fishing. And it's faith and kayak fishing, and they seem to go hand in hand. And I got two great guests tonight for you. Marty Hughes and Cody Panther, right? Am I saying that right? Prather, sorry. I slaughter names all the time. I apologize, man.
That's why I didn't put my last name up there, so nobody will know what it is. I don't want to give you a cheat sheet.
And I need a cheat sheet. There's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we guys, from the beginning of kayak fishing, at least when the sport was being organized, I feel like I saw a lot of people with faith doing it, right? That have a belief in God, that are spiritual, and it seems like it's grown almost from just like individuals sharing their beliefs to like being more organized. And I know, Cody, you lead at least at the Hobies last year. You were leading group faith sessions, and you know, you probably are with some of the Bassmaster stuff, some of those ones. I don't really know what your schedule is for doing stuff like that this year. You know, kind of when did that start happening at the tournaments? When was the moment?
The very first fellowship happened the last year I was running the old Tournament of Champions on Lake Fork, and there was just a real calling on my heart to start sharing faith and really just do fellowship, just get groups of anglers together to just to honor God, because we spend so much time on the road. The people we seem to see most in our travels, in our communities, you know, as we're fishing, are other fishermen. Mm-hmm. And why not? We're sharing the water, we're sharing the camaraderie, we're sharing the tournaments and the fun. So why not share faith with one another? And you know, it was at Lake Fork Marina Motel at the Pavilion where we had the very first fellowship.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. I love telling that story, you know, because I won't throw names out there, but I love these guys. You know, a couple guys show up, you know, they got a beer in their hand, and they're like, "Hey, what's this all about?" And we just went and had an amazing time, because that's what it was. It was just fishermen being fishermen. And getting together and just talking about life and about what fishing really does in our lives. And you know, you can't get out there on the water and not look around you and not see the Creator in it. I can't, anyways. And so there's a passion in all of this that we do, and I really just wanted people to look at that passion and see the Creator in that, and then look around and see the people around them, their buddies, and the camaraderie that is building, and understand that, hey, you're not alone in this world, and we are doing this together, and we can help each other through this life. And so that's where it all officially started on my end. Was, I don't even know when that was, 2018 maybe? I think that was 2018, November 2018.
What were we like in a little, it was covered, had lights, was a guy that gave a little clinic too that night there. Was that night? At the Lake Fork Marina?
I don't know. It's very possible.
Yeah, that's what I remember anyways, is you know, we had quite a few. There was quite a few from what I remember.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. There were quite a few. A lot of Nebraska people, a lot of Midwest people.
Yeah.
It seems like at every tournament that you have one of those at, and what are you calling that exactly? Is that the Fisherman's Fellowship like you have on your tag? Is that what you're calling it?
So Fisherman's Fellowship, we're actually a 501c3 now, and a legitimate organization, ministry, and we do the goal is to have fellowship at as many tournaments as possible. and specifically the kayak community, and also to provide resources and anything else that someone may need uh, in their faith journey, or just encouragement. I mean, that's really what we do, is we just encourage. It's not that hard to be a positive influence in the fishing world. I mean, there's so many negative influences. It's like, oh, okay, hey, there's this open spot for a positive influence. I guess I'll go be that. And it seems to resonate with people, and I've seen it grow since we've started doing this. Just slight little changes in the overall atmosphere of the tournaments and of the community, as this sport is evolving and changing, and the dynamics change. COVID really changed the whole dynamics of the kayak community, and the way that we hang out with one another, and the separation that it created. But also I see the fellowship bringing everybody back together. So Fisherman's Fellowship, yeah, we're 501c3. We do, the goal is to be at all the major kayak tournaments. You're not seeing us as much this year because we're not doing the Hobies. And Matt Ball really heads a lot of that up with doing the fellowship at the communities. But we also do a lot of other ministries. There's things that I do, speaking engagements or preaching. My wife is a big part of that as well, and she does women's conferences all over the country. And we're working on counseling arms of that. She's actually getting her working on her master's degree in psychology to be a licensed professional counselor. And so there's a whole bunch of different aspects of Fisherman's Fellowship that goes beyond just the tournament scene. Last year we did our very first weekend retreat, and I think there was 7 or 8 of us that went out to a lake, and we actually did a weekend retreat and really dug deep into different aspects of life and all of that, all based around kayak fishing. And that was kind of our monumental moment to try that. And it went well. And I hope that we can get organized to do some more of those in the future. But there's a lot of things happening. But the thing that most people see is the fellowships happening at the major events. And I hope we'll grow with those too.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's one of the things I think that I've seen. And when did they start with the Hobie series? Was that Seminole? Was that the first one?
Yeah, Seminole was the very first one, and we were there for that. We did a fellowship there because that was at Big Jim's, and yep. We had fellowship at maybe that was the second year. I can't remember. You know what? It was the second year, because the first year I wasn't at any of the Hobies, and I don't think we were set up to do all those. I think
it was the second year of the Hobie series, but it was their first Seminole event, though, right?
I can't remember. I can't remember because I was supposed to be helping AJ, because I helped build the Hobies with AJ. I took that Tournament of Champions on Lake Fork that I did, and we combined that with the Hobie Bass Open to create the Hobie BOS. And then I was filming MLF at the time. And so I thought we'd had a schedule where I was going to be able to help AJ tournament direct some of those. And then MLF changed their schedule, because at that time, that's what they did. They just kept changing schedules every week, and ended up not being able to help with any of those. So I couldn't go to any of the Hobies that year. And that really freed me up to be able to come back the next year and do the ministry side of it, and do a little bit of fishing, and not actually have to be a tournament director or a part of all of that. And so, it was that second year that we really started that aspect of it. And we met at the little breakfast place there at Big Jim's before. I can't remember when it was, but we had a really good meeting then too. That was when Ron Champion, the hurricane had gone through, and Ron Champion orchestrated a donation to help the community, and we raised, I want to say like $1,200 or $1,500 for the local community there that had been devastated in the hurricane. It was a pretty bold move, and very well received.
Which was really awesome, because that was like a year or two after the hurricane, but the devastation, I mean, you just saw so many houses with tarps on them down there, and just damage. It was kind of a eye-opening for me. I mean, someone from the Midwest who doesn't experience hurricanes, to see damage years afterwards and communities suffering as a whole. You know, I mean, it wasn't just like a few houses. It was like a bunch of houses.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny you brought that up, because that was one of the things that kind of brought to light. You did the ministry that year for the tournaments. I wasn't at that one, at that group where you guys met, but it kind of brought to my eyes that people were meeting, that there were other people out there, right? And to see when Ron did that, it was just very it touched me on a fundamental level, and it's like one of those times in your life where there's like a change in it a little bit for me. You know, it kind of brought back some feelings, and some emotions about faith and stuff that I either was dormant or I haven't had for a long time.
That's awesome.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, because it's not necessarily the topic that's easy for me to talk about, but it's definitely one that needs to be shared more, and everyone's experiences with it. So, like, Marty, when did you get involved? It sounds like you were involved right from the beginning with the fellowships.
Well, at that time, when Cody started that, I was actually the administrator, superintendent, whatever you want to call him, of a Christian school, private school in Lincoln, Nebraska. And somehow I got called into that. I retired as a teacher, and I wanted to do something. We wanted to move to near Lincoln for my wife's parents, be closer to them, and I asked around for a couple things maybe to do, and I ended up running the entire school. So I went from teacher to superintendent basically overnight, and that was a calling. It was just a flat out calling to do that. And when Cody did that, I was in. I mean, why wouldn't I want to be at that? And I remember him talking also about it and everything. But the thing is that these events are great, but hopefully it helps us to understand that it's a daily thing, not just an event thing. And so I do want to mention that for many, many years now, it's every day, and I'm sure Cody does the same thing. I have a devotional I go through, and I read the devotional, and it has something to do with life, and then there's usually one main verse. And so what I do, I have it right here too, is I have a little journal book. My wife gives me one every year for Christmas. And I take the main verse and I write down 3 things about it. Number 1 is, what does it say about God? Number 2, what does it say about us? And then number 3, how can I apply it to my life? And it seems like every day when I do that, something during the day comes up that applies to that. And so it's actually helped me, because I'm type A, like ADHD and all that, and wired, just a wired person that doesn't sleep much and all that, even in my old age. But it's helped ground me for the day. And ironically, yesterday, I believe yesterday morning was about putting on the armor of God every day. And so my Bible is in my front seat with me wherever I go, just in case, someone wants to hear about it, it's always just there. But also for me to go over that each day. And then I also write down 3 things I'm grateful for, and then what am I looking forward to that day? And a lot of guys do it different. That's how I do mine, but it keeps me grounded every day. And it's a habit. And I'll be sitting in my truck before a tournament with my light on and truck running, and I'm doing it then, or right when I get up at my campsite, whatever. But I'm going to do it the tournament is not a day off for me from it, still got to do it. And then with that, just like Cody, I get asked to speak at various places, FCA, kids FCA, churches, men's groups, things like that. Well, about 2 years ago, I got asked to speak at a men's group in Kansas. And when I was there, I said, you guys, I made food and everything, and had a lot of guys there. Like, what is this, And They go, we call this I think they called theirs Ironmen, and there's several of those across the country, I think. But anyway, I said, we got to do this in our town. So it wasn't just a fishing events. It was like, okay, can we do this in our town? And so we had a brand new venue built right across the street from my house. And so we used it. We started an Ironman group where once a month, we do it once a month, and guys come in. I invite a speaker to come in. He talks about a particular subject, and then somebody brings a meal. And our last one was dude potluck. So everybody brought something. It was so cool. And the topic was on government and stuff. It was so good. And we've been growing and growing with that one. Young guys, I mean, kids, high school kids, guys older than me. And then so I told him this last one, I said, hey guys, I'm going to be gone most of the summer, so it's going to be hard for me to coordinate all this. And one of them raised his hand and says, hey, why don't we just do a Bible study at the same time for these next 3 months? And then guys can bring snacks. I said, that's a great idea. And if I'm here, I'll join you. So it was really cool to see them want to keep going, and that's God doing his work there with that. And then, so we started that Ironman group. And then also, Cody, Kurt, there's a man camp about 2 hours north of here. It's a regular campground for kids, summer camp, Christian camp, but they have a man week, like a man camp called Camp Naboa. And you go to it and you just fellowship, and they have all kinds of speakers, all kinds of stuff. And you just camp out. We have guys from professional people to outdoor workers to guys that have just gotten out of prison that are they're working their way into society. And we all we don't have any idea what anybody does. We just mingle and enjoy our fellowship together. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then of course our church and so forth. But the fishing fellowship, it is difficult in a smaller scale, I think, but for me, because I want to do I want to make sure I get what I'm supposed to get done, for that. But at the same time, a little decal on my kayak it's Fishers of Men, because I talked to a guy one time in Florida, and I go, so what do you fish for? And he goes, I do 2 kinds of fishing. I fish for fish, and I fish for Jesus. And I said, that's pretty cool. So I said, I got to do that too then, and it's like a call, it's just that we're put in places you won't know why until you get older, maybe, and you connect the dots and you go, this is why I'm here, and I know like Cody has a career in filming boat tournaments and stuff, and mine was in education, and now I'm going to these events, and it seems like God always comes up in the topic, and which is good. And there's and the other thing is, guys, I think you mentioned earlier, Cody, there's a lot of drama, and when it's like this lady I worked with one time at school, she says, Marty, people are messy. No kidding. But I love people, but at the same time, I've had to, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I have a weakness of building a wall up when somebody does something to me or somebody else, and I lose my trust really fast, and it's really hard for me forgiveness wise, because that's another story in my life, but I have to constantly find myself going, I gotta forgive, and at the same time just kind of keep a distance and not blow up, because that's what I did when I was younger. And so this has all helped me and try to be a good example for others, in that. And we do fall short, Kurt, man, every day, just like but yeah, but we can be forgiven every time. But the Fisherman's Fellowship, it brings us together, and we find out that, hey, other people have the same stuff going on that we do, or so similar, and we can all support each other. In fact, Cody, there's been a couple of them that I've actually had the opportunity and privilege to what do you call it, narrate or whatever, or be a lead. And I actually had some guys that were at our camp that came because of that, and now they go to all of them.
Awesome.
So that's how God works. So it's not me. It's just like, that's what God does. He puts you in front of people that he says, hey, Marty, I'm not going to tell you this, but this guy needs to come hear this. So there's my story, I guess. A lot going on.
Yeah, Marty, you've been a huge encouragement to me for, longer than Fisherman's Fellowship's been going on.
Well, thanks.
So, I mean, from the very first Tournament of Champions, I think, when I met you, and I just love how you encourage anglers all across the country, and just being a positive influence and role model is really showing. I mean, big time showing out what we see the kayak community turning into.
And don't get me wrong, Cody, there's people that will still try to drag you down.
Oh, I know that. I deal with that every day.
And you have, that's where having that faith will keep you grounded. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I got on a Greyhound bus when I was just turned 17 years old and came to Nebraska from Southern California, having no idea what would happen next. And it was just faith that did it for me. And I ended up, and I'm still here. It changed my whole life, and it saved my life from other things that could have happened.
Yeah. So, Kurt, I've got a question for you. What do you see changing in the kayak community, and through the ministry and things? What role do you see it playing? Because we sometimes get tunnel vision of what we're seeing, and I would love your perspective on that.
I don't know where it's going, right? And I don't even know where to say the place for it exactly is. And for me, it's a little hard to look at it like that, because I feel like it's something that's more fundamental to me that's come up in the years. And it's some of the reasons that, because like you all say, there's a lot of drama, right? There's just tons of drama in all fishing, in life, but especially in fishing, especially in kayak fishing right now. And I'm a person who hates drama.
Yeah, me too.
So, and I'll be honest with you guys, as that drama has built, it seems like it's built over the years, right? I saw the group, the fellowships happen, grounded me a little bit, and kind of brought back and pulled my attention away from looking at the drama and looking at the really positive things that were happening with people around me. And like I said before, when we were talking before we started the podcast, that I've attended some of the fellowships, but I'm like the guy standing in the back, just listening, not interacting. I've done that for probably 4 now. I think I actually sat in my first one last year. Matt Ball was doing, I forget where it was. Marty, you were there. God, I forget where that was. Wherever.
Susquehanna? No, I did one in Susquehanna.
Maybe it was Santee. Maybe, I can't remember. I remember being in the group, but I don't remember what event it was. It was more important, and sitting there, it was at the time, it was more important for my attention and focus to be in that moment. And what always surprises me about these, that I think that some people who may not understand what these are about, it's not a sermon, right? It's just, it's not at all. And, I came from a Catholic background, so that's all you heard, right? When you went to church, you only heard sermons. There was no conversation happening. But this is totally different. Everyone was involved. Everyone was talking about, and it really boiled down to the conversation at the last one was just being good to each other, and people sharing how to be good with each other. And it just touches you in a different way when you go there and you experience in person. So, I don't know if that's even an answer to your question, Cody. I see it growing, and I see it affecting people, and it seems to be affecting more and more people for the right reasons.
I love hearing your story. I love everything that you said. That gives me a lot of encouragement. You just saying that you kind of hid back there in the background and kind of listened to a few of them before you actually went and sat down, you know, that lets us know that people are hearing, and that you recognize the fellowship aspect of it, because that's what we want it to be. There are times that that I'll talk more than I need to, or Matt will, and but the whole goal is to, you know, put something out there and have everybody come together to figure out a way to get through it, because the mantra of Fisherman's Fellowship is life is hard and we're stronger when we do it together.
Mhm.
Because I just see the constant attack of the world and the enemy of trying to separate people. And once you start feeling like you're alone, then, you know, then life gets even harder. But
Mhm.
the fact of the matter is that there's been a whole, you know, generation after generation after generation that has gone before us, that has walked through these same problems that we're walking through, that has walked through life. And there's people that your friends and mentors and people around you that have walked through the same problems that you're walking through today. And if we can break through that lie that, hey, you're alone in this world, and open your eyes to see that there are other people around you that love you, that will walk with you through these things, then, you know, life isn't so scary.
Mhm.
And that's what I want more than anything from people with the fellowship, is just for people to look at life and realize it doesn't have to be that scary, because you don't have to do it alone. Yeah, there's going to be some hard things, but you know what? God made you strong. He made us all strong. He made us strong enough to conquer this world. Like, I love looking out in the world and see all the things that can kill you. You know, it's like the wind picks up, man, that water's dangerous. I mean, it can kill you like that. The mountains, you look at the mountains, they're beautiful, but you know, you get lost in those mountains and they're going to kill you. You know, lions and tigers and bears and snakes and all these things that are going to kill
Yeah.
you. But you know what? God created us strong enough to rule over all of that.
Mhm.
You know, He put a strength in us that we don't even realize and understand. And I feel like that comes out when we get together and start, you know, talking about these things. And then all of a sudden you start realizing, hey, you know what? I'm a little bit stronger than I think I am.
Mhm.
And you know, that's the biggest thing that I want to see. And I want people to look at have a different perspective when they go out on the water, and it's not all about um, you know, so focused on the competition and, well, this angler did this and this angler did that, and you know, this person cheated here and this person, you know, probably cheated there, and all of those things. You know, it changes your perspective where you can just kind of slow down, look at everything around you, and realize that, hey, you're pretty blessed.
Mhm.
And that's what I want people to take away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. The other day I was fishing and no bites. I'm looking around and this little cardinal flew in front of me. And I was thinking of my dad when a red cardinal comes around, because he passed away about 4 or 5 years ago. And I just said, hi, Dad, like it was just like in nature, you were immersed in nature at that point. And that's what's really cool too. I mean, I had alligators by me last weekend, but it was like, I had no fear. It was like they were there and I was there, and, but, I was going to say something else too, but I can't remember what it was now, but, um, anyway. Oh, I know what it was. I'm retired. You guys know I'm retired from my profession. And the hardest thing I've found, and many of my friends have found, is finding a purpose in life. When because retirement is not like you're doing nothing. It's just a word. It's just it's a change. It's a change in your lifestyle, maybe. And for me, I was around people all day long, especially little people, all day long, and they kept me young. And then all of a sudden, here you are in a world where you are basically alone in your home, going, okay, what do I do now? Do I sit in the recliner and watch TV all day? No, I'm not gonna. Of course, I'm not gonna do that. But you can like if I'm home alone for a couple 3 hours, I go nuts because just not used to it, But whereas if I'm out kayak fishing, at least nature out there is with me, or I see somebody, whatever. But and I know a lot of guys that are younger that are kayak fishing. They're going, I can't wait till I retire. I said, no, you don't want to do that. I said, enjoy the journey that you have and the
Mm-hmm.
purpose that you have. because the kayak fishing is kind of a release for your everyday life, you know, and you can get close to God in those times. That's what it was for me. When I first started kayak fishing and paddling, now it's been almost 30 years. Gosh. And when I first started doing it, it was like I was in heaven when I was out there by myself, you know, listening to the birds and, you know, fishing and seeing all the wildlife around me. Those are the things that kept my faith going as well, you know. And like you said earlier, Cody, how can you not believe there's a creation, you know, with what you see out there? It's just amazing. Yeah, like yesterday, I wanted to take a picture of these birds I saw. I'd never seen them before, and they were really cool looking, long curly beaks. And I just got my camera out, and they flew off, but they had just like their feather, just really beautiful birds. And there's like 5 of them. They're migrating, of course, you know, north. But you know, so having a purpose in your life, but ground it with faith, because that will help you get through the hard stuff. You know, the other thing is having a group you can hang with, you know, because like for me, that purpose part, I didn't mention either. You know, we have an FCA coaches group here, and there's 2 of us are retired guys that just show up at the meeting, and we just kind of talk with everybody else there, and we feel welcomed, even though we're not even coaching anymore, you know, and those kinds of things where you're involved, you know, with those guys. And the other, you know, and I volunteer to walk dogs at the Hearts United, and, you know, you just get a fulfillment out of that kind of stuff. So you want to find stuff that you can do. And in the kayak fishing world, maybe I'm like next month, I'm doing a trash one, but the next month after we're going to do take a kid fishing. And, you know, they post their picture, and then they're in a drawing for a prize, you know, but just to encourage people to do that, you know, because I see kids walking the street by themselves, and then no one talks to them, you know, and they just feel alone. I do want to mention real quick, Cody, too, and Kurt, I was in the Susquehanna last year, and there was a guy now you can date this kayak, I'm sure, you guys. A Wilderness 135 ride. How old is that kayak?
10 years, 15 years?
Yeah,
I had one in 2000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
5 years.
The first one, anyway. The first ones were scuba diving. They're made for scuba diving because you put your tank. It was the back of it had a tank well holder in it, the back of it. And that's when my second kayak was a Wilderness 135 ride. So as I'm coming up to this guy, I said, that's a 135, man. So I go up to him and I said, hey, how you doing? And he was 83 or 84 years old, and he was kayaking the Susquehanna in a paddle kayak.
Right on, man.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, he had American flag sticking up in the back, and I thought, okay, he's in the tournament, you know. I said, hey, you fishing the tournament? He goes, what tournament? He goes, I fish on this river every day. I go, really? And I started talking to him. And of course, we can't get any information. So the first thing I said was, hey, don't tell me anything you're doing. I'm just going to talk to you about life. Okay. So okay. You know, and then he told me his wife had passed away 3 years earlier. But the one thing that intrigued me was when I came up to him and I started talking to him, and he was ready to just like tell me everything about fishing. That's when I kind of, you know, and I said, he goes, you're the first person. He says, I fish on this river almost every day when the weather's good. And he said, I've been fishing a lot of times here. You're the first person that's ever come up and talked to me all this time.
Wow.
You know, you think about it. And he saw my decal, the Fishers of Men, and we started talking. Isn't that cool though?
It's amazing. And
it made his day, but he made my day because of his story he told me, you know. And his kayak, I mean, it was faded out and everything. And he was also a veteran and a retired doctor, I think. But he was just enjoying life, man, out fishing. But that's what we got to do too, is reach out to people and just say, how's it going, man? You know? And so anyway, there's another story for you.
I think that's important in today's world, especially. I feel like the internet, in a lot of ways, I think in a lot of ways it separates us because we're not in person. Like right now, we're not in person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's massive distances between all of us. And I think that's important to reach out to other people when they're there in the moment. Mm-hmm. You know, don't wait. You know, there's those moments don't come by all the time, and it may never come by again for that guy.
Well, here's two things that make you feel better on your trips. Because I mean, I travel like you guys. We're always on the road, you know, all the time. And two things that I make sure I do on the road. One is at a gas pump that I say hi to the person across from me. How's it going? And they, hey, that's pretty cool up there. How do you get that? You know, they go, how do you get that kayak on the roof of your truck like that? I said, I work out a lot. I said, that really wheels off, you know. But you start talking to them, and a lot of times I've even given a business card because they wanted to get a hold of me, you know, later.
Yeah,
but that's one of them, and that you just make somebody's day doing that. And the other one is I make sure that I find somebody I can hold the door for at the gas station when they're coming in or out, and it makes me feel better than they do. But and I got to do it several times yesterday, you know, when I stopped to eat and so forth, and so those two things alone can make your day a whole lot better. Just doing that, holding the door for somebody, or just starting a conversation at a gas pump.
I like that, man. I like that. These are like words of wisdom to live by.
Yeah,
truly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Marty's got a bunch of them for sure.
Traveled quite a bit. You have too, but you know, for me, I was in a school all my life, you know, and so seeing the world out there, like I like to go by schools and see what they look like and what they're doing, you know, things like that. And because I told Kurt beforehand, you know, I miss school. I do. I just miss it. And I sub 2 to 3 times a month. I have a job where I can work with student teachers, you know, things like that. But in the kayak fishing world, you know, you are alone a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But you're also enjoying what's out there. But the ramp is another place you can meet people, you know, when you're launching or coming back.
Met a lot of people at ramps, and
yeah.
just random people, and we've become lifelong friends.
Yeah. Here's another great story for you. I'm at Possum Kingdom. By the way, the school keeps calling me for a sub. It's automated. But get this, I'm at Possum Kingdom 2 years ago, and I go to the boat ramp. There's these two guys, and they come over to me, and they were checking out my kayak, and then they saw my Z-Man packages in the console, and they go, "You use Z-Mans?" And I go, "Yeah, they use a TRD. You make Nico rigs out of them." "Nico rig? What's that?" So I showed them, you know, and I said I make my own heads and everything, and I gave them a couple, you know, and that the first thing they go is, "Hey, if you're ever down in Dallas area, Lake Fork, I have a place right on Lake Fork." And the other guy goes, "I got a place on Sam Rayburn. You can stay there if you." And so guess what? At the Bassmaster Championship, you know where I stayed? At Don, this guy Don, his house for a week.
Awesome.
His wife and him made meals and made me feel like I was just like one of their family.
Man.
And just over that, we I got phone numbers and stuff, and just kept talking. And you know, I made a friend for life there, and he came out in his boat, even checked on me. You know, last week I was down there again. He came out and checked on me and stuff. And I left my coffee cup at his house. He delivered it on the lake.
You're just spoiled.
Yeah. But he, you know, those kinds of relationships you build from that, and then, you know, if you're letting God work through you, then that does something for God. You're doing something for God that way, because I'm not one that's not going to go like, "Hey, do you know Jesus?" I'm not going to do that to people, but I'm going to show the example, because I know that he wants us to tell them about Jesus, but I'm not going to do it in a way that I'm forcing on people, you know?
Yeah.
Because I do have friends. I go, "Man, you're bold." And I go, "What do you mean?" They go, "I couldn't do what you do." And I go, "Well, it's just about maturity and how you are with Christ, you know, and he'll give you the strength you need to do that when time comes, you know?" So.
This is coming from someone who I admit it's hard for me to, or I don't know if it's not hard, but I'm a little reluctant sometimes to openly speak,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and unless I'm sure someone is receptive.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, what you're saying really hits home.
Yeah.
With me in particular.
Well, you know, when I was an administrator at the Christian school, we had kids from all over the world, and they had different religions, but they wanted to learn about the Bible. So, you know, and that to me, that was a huge impact, because they're going to go back to their country, and they're going to be the light. They're going to be the light for God,
Mm.
and each of us here is a light in some way or fashion, and like I said, I'm not an evangelist or anything like that, but God uses us all differently in his own way. And you don't know it till afterward. You're like, oh, okay, I got that. And you just never know how it's going to work, but it's fun.
It's good for you too. I mean, it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it kind of from a greedy perspective, it makes you feel good. It makes us individually feel good when you.
I had a gal send me a message this morning. Marvel today that he came to earth to redeem you, restore you, and use you in ways beyond what you've ever imagined. And I really believe that, because, like I said, I was a teacher, guys, and I never dreamed of being an administrator. I was against administration. I wanted, not that I thought they were bad people. I just wanted to be around the kids.
Yeah.
And then there came a time when, nope, I need you to lead the school, not just a classroom. And you know what? The whole culture changed. The whole culture changed just because of what, as a group, what we were doing there. And the same with the kayak fishing. How has Cody, I know this, Cody, the culture has changed.
100%.
And I have boat guys, not that we're two different worlds, because we got along pretty good, but I have a lot of boat guys that go, man, we envy you guys on how you operate, and I'm not going to mention names, but I talked to a couple of the elites here recently, and they were like, man, we have a lot of respect for what you guys are doing. So that says a lot,
Yeah, I do. I think you see the growth, you see what has been happening.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what you see is just on stage, where
Mm-hmm.
early on, I think people were a little intimidated to speak out about Christ on stage,
Mm-hmm.
and you see it a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Just to where people are not afraid to speak the name Jesus, and that's a big deal to me.
Yeah.
And acknowledge God in winning and give him thanks.
Mm-hmm.
It's little things that you start seeing. You start seeing the fruit of these things as the atmosphere starts to change.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a whole different atmosphere than what I saw 10 years ago. And I feel like Marty, you and I mean, we definitely grew up in the time where camaraderie was the biggest part. You didn't have the apps. Everybody had to come in to check in the morning and at the end of the day.
Yes.
And everybody was camping together and everybody was hanging out together. And I would say that the atmosphere now is even stronger with on the Christianity side, on the Christ side, on the fellowship side, although it looks completely different than it did back then 10 years ago. But there's definitely some momentum, and I think it's probably got a lot to do with this just being a hurting world. There's so much devastation going on around us, and there's just so much life happening around us, and there's not a whole lot of answers, because the world doesn't have answers for these things, but Jesus Christ does.
Yeah. And I go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go for it.
We all have something in our lives where we're hurting terrible. And I do. I'm gonna tell you, I have a son in prison, and it's hard. It's really hard. And he's a Christian kid, and a lot of people don't know that. Some people do, but he was an Eagle Scout. I mean, everybody loved him, but he made one mistake.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get himself better, but and we had to talk. We talked to him last night. I said, his name's Christian. I said, Christian, you got to let God lead your life. Because the devil gets a hold of us. He just wants to ruin us, man. He wants to destroy our relationship between each other. He wants to ruin everything we have. And so that right there alone is hard for me. And so that's what helps me to try to say, okay, what can I do to make this world a little bit better? But at the same time, when I have people that are doing things to me, it's hard. It is so hard. because there's a lot of there's a lot of animosity in this world when you when you have success too. You guys, Kurt, you're a national champion, and it's like they want to take something away from you. Well, I had something taken away from me, and it was my heart was broken, over that. And I have other things too. I mean, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not here to share testimony so much, but my dad was killed at an intersection an hour and a half before my other son's state championship in basketball. And I got the news right before the game, and I had to ward off everybody away from my son to play his game until he was done, because of social media, because people had been put all over social media and stuff. And anyway, that's another story. But to the devastation that brought, because that was during COVID, right when COVID happened, we were the only state tournament going on in the country, and nobody could go to the games except relatives. And he was rear-ended by a truck at a stoplight. And so, those kinds of things are devastating. And so for me, every single day of my life, I wake up every morning, and when I wake up, I just say, thank you, God, for giving me another day here to do something that's your will. If he takes me today, tomorrow, whenever, I'm ready. But at the same time, while I'm here, I'm going to do as much as I can to make this world a little bit better. That's all I can do. Sorry to get into that stuff, but I just thought, everybody thinks, well, oh yeah, you got a great life, Marty. You're retired. You got plenty of money. You're doing this. You're doing that. And I said, no, you guys have no idea the heartache I have, and I got other things too. But
we all carry burdens, and that's a perfect example.
But when you give it to God, He pulls you through everything. And then I trust His will for my son. I trust His will, and hey, what is His purpose? So when we have these meetings, when we go to these fisherman fellowships, there's people that come up that have these same kind of stories, and you guys know Trey Dawson. Have you heard of him?
Yeah,
from Missouri. He's got a great testimony, and what his hardships that he faced are now saving other people's lives, from his testimony for people. And he's meeting these people at kayak tournaments. And he gave a testimony at the Eco Fishing 250 last year in front of, almost 200 guys there. That sends a message, and it's not, so it's even more than the meetings, but these guys come there and they feel more comfortable about talking about God in front of other people. And that's it's like for you, Kurt, you'll become more comfortable, and you'll go, man, I didn't know that. Here's the deal, guys. You always learn something. Watch it. So I was at that play tonight, that musical. It was really good. And one of the kids had a line, it's the learning, not the knowing. We can know a lot of things. We can know a lot about fishing. We know a lot about the Bible. We know a lot about God, but it's the continuing to learn is what makes us better and help each other, And so I learned something there tonight, that, hey, it's not what I know, it's what I've learned. And I try to tell that to people, because they always like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And you know everything. No, I don't know everything. I learn every day. I learn from doing and learn from failures. And that's what we do. We learn from our failures, and mistakes. And you see it every day, Cody, in fishing on your boats. Those elite guys, they make mistakes all the time.
Yep.
But on TV, it looks like, hey, man, they caught another one. They caught another one.
Yeah, you certainly don't see the struggles that I see, with those guys, especially the mental game and the decision making and things like that. It's pretty unique being with those guys.
Is it
having cameras on you adds a whole nother level of stress.
Yeah, it does.
I thought about Kyle Welcher last weekend. You could hear drones, and he's got a cameraman behind him, and he's got people all around him in a cove.
Oh yeah, at the Classic, I was with Trey McKinney, and there were like 3 drones on us at one time. It's like you almost couldn't cast because some people just encroach on that, and they've got to work their way through that, stay focused, and get it all done. Yeah. And I've seen some epic blow ups and spin outs by people you wouldn't expect, and and I've seen the Lord show up on the boat. It's been pretty cool. I've got a lot of testimonials and stories that I can tell about stories from the boat, and you know, just knowing that God is showing up in those moments. There was one time I was in the boat and you could just feel the Spirit of the Lord on the boat, and I knew we were gonna win before we even took off. And sure
Wow.
enough, went out there and just wrecked them and won, and just had one of the most beautiful days of fishing that I've ever filmed.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. And I literally, I think I texted my wife before we even pulled away from the dock saying we're gonna win 100%, and just knew we were gonna win. And boom, won it.
Isn't this cool though? Like the other day at the All American, it's you know, Joshua Booth runs that, and we're on Lake Fork, and in practice, I found the juice. I mean, it was there. It was all there, and I was like, okay, God, if it happens, it happens. It doesn't, I get it. That's okay. Another friend of mine launched the same spot. It was like a little ditch by a bridge we could launch at. We launched, and I asked him where I was going. I said, I'm going to the spot right over. If you go wide around, that'd be okay, because I think they're there. So he goes around, he goes into a cove. Well, all these boats started coming in. So he says, I'm getting out of here. He went around the corner on the other side of the cove. I was on one side, he was on the other. He was slaying them over there. Just fish. The lake had dropped a foot. All those fish flushed out on the creek channel on that side. On my side, there was still a few fish, because I got one. An older guy and a lady came in and caught a giant right in front of me, and the guy in the bank caught a big one. But old Rick was over the other side. He was blessed, man. He wrecked. He had 102 inches. The next place was 96, I think.
Wow.
And there were only eight limits in the entire field. But he just, you know, you have those days, you know, where it's going to be like that. And we always say it's your time, you know. But so you what you do though is you're happy for their success as well. You have to be happy for their success and be humbled by what happened with you. And then when you all meet up again, you talk about it and have fun and tell your stories, and you get excited about it, you know, and because you just never know, because fish, even those little tiny brains, they say, hey, I'm going to move over here. It's almost like they're playing with us. But
I think a lot of times they are.
Yeah. But I really do believe God has a role in all that, about the little things that happen that make the changes that they do that affect the wildlife, you know, and in our decision making, and how we can use it to make decisions in our lives. That's something.
It is. It really is.
Anyway,
guys, I've had you on here for almost an hour. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. It's kind of late tonight. I want to give you guys a chance to thank anyone you would like to thank. Marty, you want to start?
Well, first, I thank Jesus Christ, my personal Savior, and I know where I'm going, and I hope that I see everybody that I'm friends with there as well someday. And I want to thank my wife, because we've been married 33 years, and she has supported me in everything that we've gone through. She's she was a teacher. She helps single moms now with teaching their 0 to 3-year-olds stuff. And anyway, and then I want to thank all the people that believe and support my mission in promoting kayak fishing, you know, and the companies that support that with me. It's not about me getting all this accolades from them. It's about me helping them so that they can help others catch fish. That makes any sense. And then also, I want to thank all the people that support the events that we run. You know, a lot of our events are for kids here, and thanks to you guys for having us, because I think this is a great message for guys to feel more comfortable about attending some of those things that we do.
Yeah, I hope people will come out to Fisherman's Fellowship and come and find us. I want to thank everybody that has come out.
Yeah.
You know, first and foremost, you know, I want to thank Jesus Christ for dying on the cross for my sins. I mean, we're in Easter, we're in Holy Week right now. We're at Easter. This is where all the power began. You know, this is where we were set free. This is where you know, everything that we believe in, this is the culmination. This is where, you know, he just took all authority and gave that authority to us to be able to fight and have a leg to stand on in this world. So definitely thankful, and please, you know, go to church, go hear the Easter message. This is one of the most important messages that you can hear from the Bible. The resurrection of Jesus Christ is what we stake our entire lives on and eternity on.
Yep.
I want to thank everybody at Fisherman's Fellowship. We do a lot of different things. We've got, you can find us online, fishermansfellowship.com, and also on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, in several different places. And we try to put something out every single day. There's devotionals. I've been writing devotionals over the years. And so there's personalized devotionals every day. Sundays, we usually do a video, and very rarely do we ever miss a day. So there's some kind of resource there. And you can reach out to me or anybody at Fisherman's Fellowship anytime, Marty, or any of the guys that you see running the fellowships. Matt Ball, I'll throw him out there, and reach out to him. We're here for a reason, and we want to talk, we want to pray, we want to dig into this. We want to, if you have questions about Christianity, if you've got questions about Jesus, one of my favorite quotes is from Billy Graham, and I'll probably mess it up, but the gist will be there. He says, it's the Holy Spirit's job, or it's God's job to judge, the Holy Spirit's job to convict, and it's my job to love. So I don't want to judge anybody, that's God's job. The Holy Spirit will convict people and bring them. When he starts coming for your heart, you'll know it. And when you have questions on that stuff, come and find one of us. If there's not somebody right there by you at your church, and if you're at a fishing trip, come and find me, come and find Marty, come and find Steve Owen, or Guillermo, or Matt Ball, or Garrett Wade, any of these guys who you see running fellowships. Come and ask them, or call me, whatever you got to do. And my wife is such an intricate part of this. I couldn't do any of this stuff without her support, and just her love for people. I mean, she teaches me how to love people. That wasn't something that just came naturally to me. And I still struggle with it a lot, but she really, really humbles me in that. And, and I hope people see that with us. I hope they see, humility. I talk a lot of trash. I'm a big trash talker, but I hope there's still a little bit of humility in there, because I'm sorry, life's too short to take it too serious all the time. But thank you, Kurt, for letting us get on here and speak about faith. I love talking about this so much more than talking about fishing. It doesn't even compare. But also, we put a lot of videos out I try to get with these pros and other anglers to do short ministry videos and testimonials and things like that. And, I got some really cool stuff from Trey McKinney and at the Classic, and also Tristan McCormick, and and some of the other guys. We've got stuff just scattered throughout. So come and check it out.
It's awesome.
I like it. Guys, thanks for coming on and talking about God and your relationship with him. I really appreciate it. We could probably go on for hours, I know, but I really appreciate you guys coming on, and I know we're all busy and we had to do some coordinating to make it all happen, and I really appreciate it all. Thank you guys. Thank you all. Thank you to everyone who's listening, and we will see you next week.
All right.